Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Yes, we have painted the face. We did some blush swatches, comparisons, but there really are none. And my 3 bronzers that I have. This, as you see from the title, is going to be our Hourglass face palettes, and the Esum face palette may or may not be irrelevant because 2 of my Hourglass face palettes are no longer available because they change every year. But also we're going to throw in my 2 Hourglass finishing powders. This one is dim light, and it does give a dim light. Like if I overdo it with my blush or my bronzer, dim light does dim down the face, but it looks really natural. It looks translucent on me. It just blurs everything out perfectly. And as I said, if I go heavy on a blush, like something like one of these, by the time I put this on all over, everything looks perfect. I love it. This was in one of the face palettes. I loved it so much I got a single, and because it is for the face, getting this in the single compact, I'm able to use a big brush with it, versus in the compact I have to use a smaller brush, usually something like this one, but then I'm trying to angle it in to try to get it onto the brush, and then it takes me longer to do my face, whereas with the fluffier brush, you know, I can do my entire face quicker. So this is dim light. We also have radiant light, which is in one of the palettes too. This gives radiance. Where dim light dims down, this gives radiance, but it's the same concept. It blends everything out perfectly. This is good for under my eye, and because it does give radiance, it gives a little luminosity. It does camouflage some of my under eye discoloration. The only thing with this one is, because I'm sitting here, I don't see it, so I'll just keep, you know, putting it on, put it on, and then when I go outside, I look like a disco ball. Like when the light hits it, because it is radiant light, it has radiance, and so I know, okay, just do a little under eye, just do, you know, one light dusting over the face, and not just keep applying it, because I don't see it. But this does what it says. Radiant light, it gives radiance. Dim light will dim down. So these are my only 2 finishing powders, and when I look at my finished face, if I look like, okay, my blush is overdone, you know, I'll take dim light and use this as a finishing powder all over the face. I do not put dim light under the eyes because it makes my under eye discoloration look a little funky. Whereas radiant light, if I just want a little more luminosity, I'll put this under eye and to finish my face. And so which one of these I use depends on what look I'm going for or what I want the powder to do for my face. We're going to switch gears to the Esum palette, and it says Esum, the Artistry palette, number 8, Structure Face Shaper palette. I say it every time I talk about this thing. It pisses me off that they say it's universal, because it's not. If you're deeper than me, the only shade you'll be able to use in here is this one. But it comes out this way. You push here and it slides out. And this is designed for professional makeup artists, because they set their stuff out, all their makeup out on the table, and they can dip into what they want. And their blush palette is the same as this one as far as how it works, as far as how you take it apart. And this piece, if you, I want to say press here or hold here and push at the bottom, it pops out. And on the back, this is where you push your thumb and you can take the bronzer out or whatever you're using it for. So their blush palette is the same way. So you can package it or change it to how you want it to be for you. But this is $80. And so if you're just wanting 1 or 2 of these, I would not get it. It's hella expensive. Their blush palette is the same. These are, again, for professional makeup artists, because hopefully their clientele is a wide range of complexions. But this does work for me. This works for me for under eye. This works for me. Everything in here is matte. This works for me. I'll just put it right here for highlight, even though it's matte. This, I'll put it a little bit lower, so I'll put this here. This I will use as a blush, so that'll be like right here in this area. This I'll use, did I do that right? Highlight, then under here. Wait, let me back up. Excuse me. This I use for under eye. This I'll use as a highlight. That'll be here. So this shade, I'll put it a little bit lower here. This one I'll use as a blush, and so I'll just kind of blend this here. This I use as a contour slash bronzer. So I'll put some here and then along here, and then the perimeter of my face, here and here again, and across my 5 head and down the temples. So everything in here works for me. And I want to swatch this for you, since we already have stuff on the face, just to show you, if you're deeper than me, this is not a universal palette. And every time I talk about this palette, I say how much I hate that they say it's universal. So we are going to put this here. And when I tag them in my Instagram posts, like when I do my flat lays, and I show this out, and you know, I tag the brand because I tag all the brands that are in the flat lay. Sometimes they'll comment back, or they'll put like, you know, heart eyes or something. And because I know somebody had to be watching that account to even respond, I'll reply back. I'm really hoping they do a deeper one so that it will be suitable for people with deeper skin tones than me. They never reply back to that one that I put, but I know somebody has eyes on it because they replied in the first place. And so I'm doing what I can. So this is this shade. I go lightly, as I said, as a bronzer and contour. But if you're deeper than me, these ain't gonna work for you. Unless maybe, you know, for finishing powder for this one, but then it depends on your undertone too. You see what I'm saying? And so this is nice as a bronzer slash contour for me. I should have swatched it over here because these are the bronzers that I swatched earlier. But this is a nice rich tone, but this is not a universal palette. And so it does really piss me off. But anyway, I do really like this for me. So if you're my complexion or lighter, I would say wait for a sale because it is $80. And so there's times when I'm lazy and I'll just take one brush. I'll skip the top one sometimes. And I'll take the brush, swoosh, swoosh, take the brush, swoosh, take the brush, swoosh, take the brush, swoosh, swoosh, and do the whole face, and I'm done. And it does really structure my face. It adds just enough color without looking overdone. These never look cakey. They never look overdone. They never look powdery. It's a very good formula. And I do think for me, it was worth the investment of the money, and I did pay full price for it, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was free shipping though, but even for $80, I want everything in here to work for me. And hopefully they will come out with a deeper one. And my hope is even if this is the lightest shade, like how this one is the lightest in here, start with this as the lightest shade and then just go deeper. Like, can you imagine a palette starting with this and going deeper for the next 4 shades? That would be friggin' awesome, I think. So that is that one. We're going to talk about my 3 Hourglass palettes. When I talked about being pissed off that Esum says it's just universal and it's not, I was also pissed off with Hourglass because we know, especially if you're more melanated than I am, we know these are not universal palettes. And they tried to get us one year with a 3-pan saying it was for deeper skin tones because they showed it in dim light and they showed it with a dark skin model holding it. All 3 of those shades, if I'm not mistaken, were repeat shades. They had just put them into one 3-pan palette. So they were trying to pass off previous shades as being new, showing it like it was, you know, for deeper skin tones, and it wasn't. So people were angry. There was an outrage and an outroar over that. Because it's like, you think we're stupid, don't you? And so even just with that, I still hadn't had any Hourglass because I was just so pissed off that, okay, you are a luxury brand. You're making money. You know people want to try and buy your brand, and you're still just insistent on not tapping into a deep complexion demographic. Y'all, we be spending some money, and I'm not going to beg anybody to take my money. So I was pissed off for my more melanated folk. I've messed around. I was getting ready to say the F-bomb, and I'll just say it. I fucked around and bought Elephant palette when it came out. I love every freaking thing in here. After all that I just said, I fucked around, sale or something. I fucked around and bought Elephant palette. I love it. Every freaking thing in here works for me. And I was pissed off that I loved it. And for a long time, when I would use this, I would say, I hate that I love it. Because I'm still angry that my more melanated folks can't use it. But I love it for me. So I was kind of torn, like, this ain't right. It ain't right. And I love this so much. Then I friggin' bought the friggin' Tiger palette. And I'm just like, what the hell? And I'm like, I hate that I love it. Everything in here works for me. And I was just so torn and pissed off and angry and loving it at the same time. Like, this ain't right. But this has dim light in it. And I like this so much. That's why I bought the compact. And then I messed around and got Radiant Light. Like, what's that gonna look like? Love that too. So I'm just like, so Elephant palette, what works in here for me, I usually use this in conjunction with Tiger palette. Usually, not always, but usually. This works for me, and I put a label so I remember which was what. This is Dim Light all over finishing powder. So after everything is done, the last thing you put on your face is your finishing powder, which would be Dim Light, or Radiant Light, or whatever other finishing powder you have. This does not look good under my eyes. This one does. So for me, under eye, cheek highlight, this says it's a bronzer. It's cool tone. This works for me as a contour. And then I have one of these for blushes, and then put one of those on, and then put on Dim Light. This entire thing works for me. And I hate that I love it. Tiger palette, hate that I love it. This is a finishing powder. This is supposed to be for deep skin tones, y'all. This is a finishing powder, which is what Dim Light is for me. Dim Light is a finishing powder for me. Radiant Light is a finishing powder for me. You cannot see it on my skin. If I go outside, Radiant Light, I'll look like one of the Cullens. This is a finishing powder for deeper skin tones. I know people with deeper skin tone than me, this doesn't even work for them as a finishing powder. So it's like still Hourglass. Y'all still didn't get it yet. You know what? I use this as a bronzer. And this works perfect for me as a bronzer. What did I do with that last sponge tip I had? We're going to go into this. I use this as a friggin' bronzer, y'all. We're going to put this over here. This is a finishing powder. I use this as a bronzer. Look at that. And these are my other actual bronzers that I have. This is a finishing powder. When Snake came out, which is supposed to be for deeper skin tones, they were like, oh, that bronzer is lighter than the bronzer in Tiger. This isn't identified as a bronzer. It's a finishing powder. But some of us, my complexion or lighter, use it as a bronzer. Look at that. So it may work as a finishing powder for some people, but for others... But this works for me as a bronzer. And so I'll use the Elephant bronzer as a contour. And then I'll put this on as a bronzer. This for me, it works as a highlighter. These three work for me as blushes. This one is very pretty. Well, they're all pretty on me. It's a coral color. This for me is sort of like a pinky funkish kind of color. So I usually use this as a blush light. And so I'll put this like right here. Not as a highlight, but I'll put it just under the highlight. And then I'll usually take this one and put it as my blush. And it's really pretty. And I did use this as a blush once. And it was pretty. Very shimmery though. But it was pretty. And sometimes I don't mind a shimmer blush. But I'm doing this and that's not even what any of this is. But so everything in here works for me. And so between Tiger and Elephant, I have two options for highlighters. I have a finishing powder, an under eye powder, a bronzer, a highlighter option, a blush light, 3 blush options, and 2 blush options here. So between these two, I'm set. I previously did a video on my blushes, that's what some of this is, and bronzers. And I remember saying in a video before, the difference is with Hourglass blush options, you're going to get natural looks, you're going to get neutral looking blushes, you're not going to have those punches of color, these. You're not going to get punches of color from Hourglass. But if you want just subtle, very pretty, a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of glow, that's going to be pretty. You can't overdo it at all. That's where Hourglass blushes come in. But if you want punches of color, that for me would be House Labs. And so there are no dupes in my collection. There's no overlaps because these are just take with me when I travel, easy to work with, can't mess up. Finishing powder, under eye powder, highlighter options, blush options, contour, and a bronzer. So that's why I usually use these two together because on their own, the whole thing works for me. And compared, they work even better because of finishing powder, the under eye powder, contour, bronzer, highlight options, blush options. This is the Snake palette, the newest one. This is Radiant Light. This is the one I showed you, the compact that I have. I don't care that it's in here. And I do use it when I use this palette, but I have to use a smaller brush and just use the tip of it and be careful with how I'm maneuvering it so I'm not touching the other shadows around it. But I didn't mind it being in here because, say, I don't want to take the single compact. I can just take this. But if I travel, I do take the single compact. So I can use the bigger brush and do my big face faster. But this works for me as a finishing powder. So for me, this is a highlighter. This, what is this? That is number 4. It says it's a bronzer. And that's the one they were saying is darker than a bronzer in Tiger. But the one we use as a bronzer in Tiger is not a bronzer. It's this finishing powder. And it is just a little bit lighter, but not much. And so this does work for me as a bronzer. More subtle than this, but this does work for me as a bronzer. So I have a highlighter, I have a bronzer. Are any of these? This is, yeah, that's a highlighter. What's number 2? Coral Haze. Oh, so there's 3 blushes. So we have highlighter, bronzer, 3 blush options, and a finishing powder. Everything in here works for me. Everything in here. So the only thing I'm missing is like an under eye powder. And that's not a big deal because sometimes I don't even set my under eye. Or I put Radiant Light under eye as I'm finishing the face. And so this one gives me more blush options, and they are all neutral, and they are different blush shades than in Elephant and Tiger. And it depends on the swirl, because some people were saying it's identical, and I'm like, well, me, they're not. And so I am happy that I got this. And so again, though, with the blushes, you're going to get the natural flush, a neutral flush of color. You're not going to get the punches of color that you do with, say, House Labs. So I am glad that I have these, and I do use them. When I use Snake, I usually use it by itself. Sometimes Tiger by itself, sometimes Elephant by itself, sometimes Tiger and Elephant together. If I want under eye and dim light, then I will use Elephant with Snake, and also the contour in here. The bronzer that's in here I use as a contour. So I do sometimes pair this as well. And so I don't, there are no overlaps for me. If anything, they each work on their own, and they also complement each other because of the contour, the bronzer, you know, finishing powder, and the under eye powder. So yeah, so these are my Hourglass face palettes, my 2 Hourglass singles, compacts, and my Esum face palette. So this is it, y'all. And I don't feel, you know, the need or the desire to just get more, because this is enough. Now, and I'm not going to say 2024 I won't get another face palette, but we'll see. And I do pay attention to, you know, formula change, if the performance changes or whatever. The PAO was 12 months, but we know we can keep stuff longer. And I do tend to keep face products until they start to turn, which means they start to look different, or they start to perform different, or they start to irritate my skin. And so, yeah, so this is this. I'm doing all of this so I can take a halfway decent picture. I don't like sometimes when I smile, you can see like how my lipstick, you can see the inside of my lip. So then I go, and now we're going to take a picture. Wait a minute. It's still hanging out. Okay. So yeah, that's this. So now y'all see how I take my pictures. I just like, So the process is like, why she keep making faces? But I'm trying to get the lipstick to look the same and not like this. And now I won't even do it like this. Because that just looks weird. Anyway, we're going to go. Let me know your thoughts on the Hourglass palettes. If you have them, if you don't. And trust me, I get it. If you're like, I'm boycotting Hourglass. I get it. I hate that I love them. I fucked around and tried Elephant and was like, wow, this formula is freaking awesome. And then not long after I got Tiger. And then this year. And in between. But between those, the 2 finishing powders, I don't feel the need to go out and even try other finishing powders. Even sometimes I might be curious about one, but I'm like, I have 2 that work. Like, why? And also while we're here, not with this one, but Esum, because I can just be lazy and just do this whole thing for my face. And it being called Structure Face Shaper Palette, it does structure and shape my face, but it's not universal either. While we're here, I only have 2 setting powders. I have the Hourglass Veil Translucent Setting Powder, and I have Fashion Fair Set It Loose Powder, and the shade is Truly Tawny. This is my complexion. When I put this on, it buffs in, blends out. you can't even tell I'm wearing a setting powder. The Hourglass, even though it says it's translucent, it does have a light hue to it. And so sometimes I can see where it is and where it's not. And if I'm feeling a little sweaty, this will stick. And you can see where the brush hits my face. So I have to be sure to blend, blend, blend. Whereas with the Fashion Fair, because this is my complexion, I put it on, and even just patting it with the brush, it blends itself. Like, this is amazing. And I remember saying in a recent video, probably not recent by the time you see this, today is December 1st. I don't know when you're going to see it, though. You'll see it right now. See what I did there? And so I said in the video, as I was talking about the differences between the setting powders, I said, it sounds like I wouldn't repurchase the Hourglass, because sometimes I can see where it is until I blend it out. And if I have zero tan, I look a little bit paler than usual. Whereas with the Fashion Fair, it always just looks perfect. And so I don't think I would repurchase this for me. And it might just be my undertone. It might just be my undertone. Because even looking at it this way, you see the difference. Even though the Hourglass says it's translucent, it shows up translucent, but it shows up a little light on my complexion, unless I make sure I blend it in carefully. Whereas the Truly Tawny, it is translucent on me. You see the color of it, but when I put it on, you can't tell I have it on. Like, it is my exact complexion, whether I have zero tan or full tan. It is my perfect shade. So, and I have finished this before, and this is maybe like a little less than halfway done. I already do have a backup because I purchased it during a sale or points or something, but this is a go-to for me. So out of the two setting powders, it would be the Fashion Fair. So that was easy. These are my only face palettes. I'm not even going to pick one. They're both equal, because this gives me the extra color and all the other stuff, whereas this is all matte, but it still can finish and do my entire face, my under eye and everything else, down from highlighter to bronzer contour. And sometimes I use this on its own, and sometimes I'll put this on and then take a House Labs blush and put on. Or I'll just put Hourglass Radiant Light over it just to give my face a little bit of shine. And so, yeah, I'm not going to rank which one of these I like better, because if I had to choose, which is not fair, because I would choose all three of these over this one, and that's not fair because there's three and this is just one. But we're not going to choose. But I do like how the Esum does structure my face. And my face looks fine without adding extra color or punches of blush or a shimmer highlight. But I like all of these too, because they function well on their own and together. So that'll be that and the two finishing powders. And so I hope this made sense, because I know it got kind of convoluted towards the end. But let me know your thoughts. And again, if you refuse to get Hourglass, I don't blame you. I really don't, because it pisses me the hell off. But I messed around and tried it, and now I got 3 of them. So I will say, if you're pissed off at Hourglass, I will say, don't even try it. Because I promise you, you will love it. Because the formula is amazing. And it's sad that it is amazing, because, yeah. But anyway, so that is it. Let me keep this stuff out for a picture. Why am I putting stuff away? I took a picture. Oh, for the flat lay. Damn it. Okay. So, do I want to do a flat lay? Yeah. So that'll be it. Thank you for being here. Oh, one last thing. The brush. I did a review when I first got this with the Tiger palette, or after the Tiger palette, because I was on the fence because it doesn't fit in the palette. So I'm like, why would you bring out a brush that's too big to fit in a damn pan? That to me made 0 sense. But then I thought, I have 2 of the singles. So I purchased it. I had a sale. There was a sale. I had a coupon. There was points. Full price, I think this is $50-something. I think I paid $30-something for it. And it's not unheard of for me to spend $30-something for a brush. And so for that price with the sale and all of that, I'm like, okay, it's worth it. But when I got it, I was like, this cheap piece of shit. Hourglass, we know, is a luxury brand. Yes, the brush is nice. Listen, this is hollow. Like this is lightweight, number one. Not a problem, right? Okay. When I first got this was so prickly that even doing this, I was always rubbing, like if you look back at that video, every time I put this on my face, I would rub it because it was just prickly, and it was just like, what, how is this a luxury brush for $54? Number one, it don't fit in the palette. You need a single palette, a single pan, a single compact for it to fit in. But then it had the nerve to be hollow, lightweight, and prickly for $54. I'm like, they crazy. But after I kept washing it, and I just use either Dawn detergent or like a gentle baby shampoo, the more, and I wash my brushes after every single use. And so using it and washing it, it did get softer. It's still not the softest. Like it is nowhere near like how soft this is. It's nowhere near that. But it's soft enough where I don't feel like I need to rub it after I, you know, use it on my face, or like how I just, you know, did it on my neck. But at first I was just like, what the hell? But it did get softer. I still do not recommend it. I don't even recommend it for $30-something on sale. If you want a hint, you know, that you want it free as a gift, or not free as a gift, but if somebody say, oh, what would you like for, you know, your birthday, whatever, and an Hourglass snake brush. So if you could get it free some kind of way, I would recommend it. But even half off, I wouldn't recommend it. But having it and it getting softer over time, still not the softest, but it works with the compacts. It works to get the powder on. Everything looks fine. It's easy to clean. It's just not worth the price at all. So I would say, do not pay for this brush. Even though you'll see me using it in videos, I do not recommend this brush. If you want to just get it because it's limited edition and, you know, the design, and because if you're one of those people that buy things just for the name brand, then go ahead and get it on sale, or hint to someone to get it for you. Or if you have a gift card, you know, buy it with the gift card. But I do not recommend this brush. You'll see me using it. It works for what I want to do with it. My skin is okay with it. It did get softer over time, but it shouldn't be softer over time for $54. That shit is crazy. But still, no, I don't recommend the brush. I am going to keep it. I have been using it. So please don't mistake seeing me use this in videos as me subconsciously saying this is a good brush, because it shouldn't. It should be better, a whole lot better for full price coming out of the box. And I do wash brushes before I use it. And so even washing it when I first got it and then using it, it was just like, but again, it got softer. It works well with the single compacts. It works well with other loose powders. But I do not recommend this brush. I do not. If you're curious about the Esum palette or you have it, let me know your thoughts on this. If you have the Hourglass translucent Veil powder, let me know your thoughts on that. If you have any of the Fashion Fair Set It Loose powders, let me know your thoughts on that. And I say that because I want us to help each other out in the comments. And so even though I do want to know, somebody else might be reading comments like I usually do, and they might see your comment and be like, yeah, I want to try that, or, oh, no, I don't. You know what I'm saying? So comments are always welcome. Thank you for being here. If you made it this far, go ahead and thumbs up the video. If you made it this far and you're not subscribed, browse around, check out my other videos. If you like what you see, I would be more than appreciative if you subscribed. A whole lot of links below. Some are affiliated, some are not. I just wanted to help your shopping be a little bit easier with the links. So that'll be it for this video. So thank you for being here. And as always, self-acceptance, self-love, that is the Crazy Troll Nation way. Thank you, and you will see me soon.